big hello and a very warm welcome to Brand Equity with me, Sonali Krishna. Now imagine this, a late entrant in 2006, reporting a puny revenue of 22 crore rupees, today stands taller, bigger than all its rivals, Adidas, Nike, Reebok combined at 2,044 crores in the Indian market. I'm talking about none other than the sport and athleisure brand Puma. This meteoric rise of Puma is definitely a case study of sorts and deserves an important leaf in the history of sports and athleisure in the country. What did it do right? Well, today the captain of this big cat, Abhishek Ganguly, the managing director of Puma India and Southeast Asia, joins me right here to kind of put it down in terms of the step-by-step process and progress this brand has witnessed to be the numero uno brand in the country. Many, many congratulations, Abhishek. No mean feat. I don't think when you joined the company in 2005, you realize you would have thought that Puma would be the #1 brand in India, far leaving behind heavyweights such as Nike, Reebok, Adidas. Many, many congratulations.
Thanks, Sonali. Great to be here. Yes, absolutely. I think I could have never imagined those days. But yeah, I think business has been good. And what's more interesting is that the outlook for future looks even better.
So I have a couple of questions, actually much more than that, but this is a conversation, so please feel free to add as and when you deem fit. Let's go to the pre-COVID days, back in early 2019. At that point, Puma sprinted ahead of Adidas. I remember it posted a revenue of about 1,157 crores in 2018. And the corresponding figure was 1,132 crores. And, it became the biggest in India. How did that happen? These are all heavyweight players. They've had a much bigger innings in India compared to you. You were a smaller player, come in very late. How did this development of the brand take place so much so that it became so fierce in the consumer's mind?
Well, Sonali, I think first you're absolutely right. We came to the Indian market later than a lot of our peers and competition did. We were at least 10, if not 15 years behind them in terms of our entry into India. But what I would say that in terms of the timing, probably we got the timing right because the Indian retail environment completely evolved. Consumers' aspirations for products like ours grew. Interest around sports, interest around sports fashion as categories started growing. And then there were a few things that we did probably right, which helped us grow to this level. But more than anything else, I think what we could steer ahead with is to have that consumer mindset. We came into India thinking we are a global brand with great heritage on one side, but to win in India requires a very India for India strategy. And I think that's one piece that our brand has been able to get right.
Right. But when you say, you entered the right time when the retail environment was just opening up, it was the right time for sports and athleisure were just about nascent trends. This is advantage to all players, not just you. So it was advantage to your heavyweight competition too. What is that one or two strategic initiatives that I think, the brand has taken to have beaten, heavyweights such as these? Unbelievable, unthinkable. So what is it that the consumer of India has been attracted to towards Puma that has managed for it to gallop so ahead?
Well, I'll give you 3-4 reasons, which I can probably today, in retrospect, feel that we got right. One is endorsement of digital. Whether it was e-commerce back in the days when e-commerce was setting up in India, we were one of the first brands to get into it. And over a period of last 7, 8, 10 years, we always took e-commerce as the growth channel. We used e-commerce to penetrate the Indian market. We used e-commerce to give our consumers a wide range of assortment that they could, buy very conveniently from wherever they wanted to. Also, it's not just e-commerce. If you look at the way in which we have marketed the brand using digital channels, whether it is our partnership with Google or Meta, how we've used social media, how we have used influencers at various levels, not just the mega influencers, but also micro influencers across sports, fashion, culture, music. That has really worked for us. So one, I would keep also using technology as the heart of operating the business. When we scale, we use technology very, very well, and which continues to be a very, very important element of our operations. The second thing, Sonali, I can really think of when I mean an India for India strategy is how does the Indian consumer relate to the brand? So we spoke through the lens of, let's say, a Virat Kohli, or in Bollywood with Kareena Kapoor. In the past, we've been associated with other, people who are in Bollywood. In football, Sunil Chetri, to Gurpreet Sandhu, to football clubs in ISL, to Royal Challengers Bangalore. Look at our associations in the past with music artists, today with Hardy Sandhu. We in cricket, we were with Yuvraj Singh. So we always created our partnership through, key opinion leaders who had a relatability factor. And that also helped. Also our campaigns, if you've seen how we've done the Proper Lady campaign on women's, or what we've done with Virat Kohli in the past with Sock Them, or Come Out and Play. So we've always created local campaigns, which again is relevant to the audience, and the audience could actually participate and engage in those campaigns. We have always kept a strong eye on offline retail, while online is very, very important. Today, you see we have 425 monobrand stores, out of which, we believe in experiential retail. We believe in creating great experience for our consumers. The last but most important is, how do you create a product assortment which is relevant to the country? How do we create a product assortments which people want to buy at the price that they see great value in? So our product and price has always been very, very India-centric. We've created products which doesn't exist in the global world of Puma, but we created it, and that made us to be very fast to respond to certain demands. So all of this put together, and on the other side, the macro factors of sports and athleisure growing, like you mentioned, I think we could leverage that very well. And at the end, I think having the mindset of what gets us to a place doesn't keep us there. So if constantly we reevaluate our position in the market, we constantly think that, our next 2 years will be very different from the past 2 years. So this mindset has also kept us going.
So, one of your first reasons that you brought up is the fact that you've always been digitally focused. It wasn't that in the pandemic you had to change and pivot to digital. You've always had a focus with, whether it's been partnerships with the big digital behemoths or e-commerce channels, or or interacting with the consumer on social media. I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, that consumers were tending towards buying, whether it's athleisure or your shoes, which is, in the olden days, it was touch and feel was important. You to wear your shoes, walk around, and then buy it. Are you suggesting that even before the pandemic, you saw, some kind of momentum in the e-commerce channels where people were okay to buy online?
Absolutely. If you look at today, 650 million plus Indians have access to data through smartphones, out of which clearly about 80 million of them are transacting on e-commerce channels, right? Of course, a lot of India is still not penetrated by e-commerce, but at least 80 million is what we can say is penetrated through e-commerce. We're transacting and buying products online. Now, that's a very large number. Even before pandemic, the writing was always very clear that India, with the kind of India's adoption to digital has been fabulous in the last 2-3 years, but it has also been fabulous in the last 5-6 years as well. You look at how seamless some of the platforms are, how digital payments have been seamlessly integrated, how the ecosystem around deliveries to all the derivatives around ecosystem, that is the derivatives around digital commerce is today shaping up. So India was always getting ready, and I think we saw that quite early. And today we believe that e-commerce or digital is not just important for that transaction, right? There are a lot of people who are discovering product online, engaging with products online, and they might end up buying in our store or in our partner stores, or even in a departmental store for that matter. But digital has played a very, very important role in the entire marketing funnel, whether it is about awareness, consideration, or interest, and not just in terms of traffic and conversion and actual transaction, right? So digital is super important, and touch and feel. Yes, people go to stores, try out their product, and they might transact online, and vice versa. People choose shortlist products, go to the store, and finally try that on. All consumers have their own way of shopping. And as a brand, all that we can do and should do is to make it convenient and seamless for the consumer to engage with us and transact with us and come back to us. And I think that's something that we've been doing and focusing on.
If I had to ask you to give me a breakup of your channels right now, let's say, I'm assuming, correct me again if I'm wrong, in the pandemic, obviously your digital sales must have been got quite an impetus, but maybe now post, when things are normalizing, retail is back. So what is the kind of split we are seeing in a category such as yours?
Well, on one side, we have a very strong offline channel, which I mentioned. But on the other side, e-commerce is growing. It's not just pandemic. And we see the affinity of young consumers towards digital commerce is very high. We also see that more and more people have now adopted to buying online and are coming back and transacting, not just they might have bought for the first time during the lockdown, but they have got used to, they've adopted e-commerce in their shopping journeys. So almost half of our business is on digital commerce today, out of which 10% of that are already on our platform. We launched the shopping app in India. India was the first country where Puma launched the shopping app, which is also enhancing the customer experience. So we are focusing a lot in solving for this channel. And the other side, the rest of the 50%, which is offline, almost 40% of this come from mono-brand stores, and 10% out of that 50 comes from multi-brand stores. Having said that, we've always realized that the consumer needs its choice. The consumer decides where to engage and what to engage and where to transact. And we are laying the land and making it convenient for the consumers to engage with us. So I would say on one side, e-commerce is super important, but Puma as a brand got built in India because you have those great stores in the malls and the high streets. So let's make no mistake. I mean, consumers also want to see and engage and touch and feel with the brand and the product. So we are solving for both sides, and nuancing that and trying to get better every day.
I believe D2C or direct to consumer is also something that you've started investing in, and almost 10% is coming through direct to consumer. That's amazing because you also have then first party data. How is I know a lot of brands across categories are suddenly focusing on D2C. Do you think this is only going to grow, and every customer for every single product that they value will go to that particular site and buy it instead of going to an aggregator? Do you see that trend, and how is that convenient for the customer?
Well, it actually depends on the category, Sonali, as well as on the brand. If there is higher iconic value, or I would say the loyalty is high towards a brand, and we would like to believe that Puma is in that zone, then there is a high probability and there is a strong affinity to search for a brand platform. Because what a brand platform does is it gives access to a lot of products which are only on that brand platform. It also gives a lot of engagement factors come in. It's not just a transaction. There is a lot of content, information, and we have seen that a lot of our consumers spend a lot of time on our shopping platforms, whether it is the mobile site or whether it is our mobile application. And it really depends on the stage the brand is in. And the stage that Puma is in, DTC, online DTC is extremely important for us to present, I would say, the brand's best foot forward, the best assortments, the limited edition products, and also have engagement with our key opinion leaders who have their fan following with the platform. So it is, in my mind, very important. If digital is important, it is very important to have one's own, DTC channel. But I would say that it also depends on the stage, right? For Puma, it is important. It might not be as important for, let's say, a newer brand who can probably leverage traffic on marketplaces and build their position there first. So I think there is no one-size-fits-all strategy here.
Right. Now, all the things that you mentioned as success triggers for Puma in India over the years, are you suggesting? I'd really like to know, because now you are wearing the king's hat. So tell me, are you suggesting that all your other competitors who are equally well-established players didn't do the same?
Well, it's beyond my scope to comment on them. But yes, the opportunity for India exists for all of us. I think we are all getting started. The potential of this market is immense. We as a company are very ambitious about the future. And I would say that, what is really working for us is that, global templates and global playbooks don't fit always into the Indian market. One needs to have an India for India strategy. One needs to allow that. I'm super lucky that our global board gives me per se the kind of independence to build an India strategy, and that has been the case. It's an extremely empowered leadership and team here. And that has really helped us build the business in India the way India business needs to be built, because a lot of times templates don't work, right? And I don't want to insinuate it here for others, but I think I want to focus on our success and I want to focus on our ambition. And in both cases, it has been India for India, empowered leadership team, and then looking at the market and making the right investments.
You've done so well, with, your revenue figure being touted across the industry. How are you evaluating the year that we are currently going through? How has the year shown up in terms of new opportunities, general health, or consumer sentiment? And how is this just the ongoing festive season, how has that performed? And are you hoping to break more benchmarks as we end this year?
Well, we are having a very strong year. I can tell you, last year when we grew the business to the extent that we did, we were also encountering the second wave. We were also encountering the second wave of COVID, which was really disastrous for a lot of people, and we still had closures. Business was restricted. This year, whether it was even Q2, Q3, we could grow the business without these restrictions. festive season has been this year. People were unrestricted. People were spending a lot of money on themselves, and we really gained from that. So this year, we are growing very, very well over last year. Also, the fact that people are doing more sport and fitness, and that's a reality. People are taking to sport and fitness big time, and it's not just urban male. It is a lot of women. It's tier 1, tier 2. Kids are training, playing sport. So which is great. Fitter India will be a better India, which is which is great for our country, and as a business, it is good for us. And athletic leisure is the fashion trend, and then that continues, right? Because sports fashion, whether it is sneakers, whether it is track jackets or track pants, is the go-to outfit today, and that share of that type of product is increasing in the closet today for a lot of us. So given all of this year is shaping up very well. I must admit that there are certain global headwinds which we all read about, financial situation, capital markets, supply chain pressures, volatility in terms of inflation and foreign exchange rates, and that exists. But what is very, very heartening is India is really shining out in all of this. I see no impact of that, in our category. And I hardly see impact of consumers holding back from spending. And I think it's a great time for India. It's a great time for companies in India. And I think not just this year, I think we are having a very strong outlook for 2023 as well.
If I just look at how Puma has performed and outperformed in the India market, and you look at other regions of the world, right? I don't think Puma's performance has been as stellar as we've seen its performance here in India. Why is that? So how does the consumer in India perceive Puma, and how does a Western consumer perceive it? There's obviously a difference in the way they're looking at it.
Well, look, I mean, our global revenues are, growing very well as well. We have some momentum on our global brand. Our brand is growing very strongly, despite the fact that we are a large-scale brand. We are growing that, and there are markets where we are not just a number 3 brand. There are markets in a lot of places in the world where Puma is really creating a lot of ripples. I can talk about Southeast Asia. That's a market that I lead. There are some markets like Malaysia, and now markets like Indonesia, Philippines, where we are investing and making it big. What I would say is that, yes, in India, we have this phenomenal position of large market share and very strong market leadership, which probably doesn't exist yet outside. And I think a lot of it is to do with what we have done right. And a lot of this playbook, mind you, will get replicated in other parts of the Puma world as well. But yeah, India is that ways, very, very important market for us from that perspective, that we've got it phenomenally right here. But like I said, we're just scratching the surface. Even in India, there is so much potential. We're talking about, tripling the business, right? I mean, and it's all doable, because if you look at any research today suggests that sportswear is going to grow at the next 10 years at every price point to a CAGR of 20 to 25%. Now, that is the kind of opportunity you're sitting at. I can't see many categories with that kind of opportunity.
On that note, Abhishek, firstly, many, many congratulations yet again. More power to you, more power to the big cat. And let's hope that we see this winning streak continue. And, many, many congratulations and all the very best until we speak again.
Pleasure speaking to you. Thanks, Sonali.